All right, so Daniel chapter 3, very powerful passage of scripture here. And my son just did a study on it. And there was some very powerful truths and revelations about God and the kingdom of God, and also some revelation about your enemy, which is Satan. So when you read about Nebuchadnezzar, we understand that he was the king. Actually, at that time, he was the king of the world. And he was a great king. And we understand that the children of Israel were actually in what's the word I'm looking for? They were at that point they were in Babylon. They had been taken captive in Babylon, and we all understand because of their rebellion. Because of their rebellion, and they became captive by Nebuchadnezzar. So we'll go ahead and read Daniel chapter 3. And it says, Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold, whose height was 60 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. And he set it up in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent to gather together the princes, the governors, and the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Then the princes, the governors and captains and judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Now understand that at this point we see that Nebuchadnezzar, he wanted them to worship an image. This image was an image of what?
Gold.
Gold. Gold. Very key that you understand that. He wanted them to worship an image of what?
Gold.
It was an image of gold. Very important to understand that. Gold. Because we understand Nebuchadnezzar is symbolic of a type of Satan as being the devil. And he wants you to worship what?
Gold.
Gold. Money. Somebody say money.
Money.
Material things. Somebody say material things. Somebody say the world.
The world.
Okay, so this is what he wants you to worship. He wants you to worship the world, right? Gold is glamorous. It's glamorous. You can get things. You can obtain things with buying things. With money. And so and actually, I was thinking about that today. The parable or the story of Lazarus and the Lazarus and the rich ruler. And it said that Lazarus was a beggar, and he begged at the gate of the rich man Lazarus' house. Every day he begged for money. I will beg for food. I'm sorry, he didn't beg for money. The poor man begged for food. And Lazarus was his name. And the rich man, he had all the money, right? He had all the good stuff, right? Lazarus was sick. Well, it didn't say he was sick. It just said that he had sores. The dogs licked the sores all over his body. That's what dogs did. So just imagine that. You got sores all over your body. You don't have anything to eat or not much to eat, right? And you're pretty much begging, for food. This is the poor man. Well, what happened was that both of them died. The rich man went to hell. The Bible said that the rich man opened his eyes in hell, but Lazarus opened his eyes in heaven. It said the angels took him up to heaven. Why do you think the rich man went to hell?
Because he had worldly things at the time.
There you go. He had a whole lot of worldly things. Because what does money give you? Money buy you what?
Worldly things.
Exactly. Money can buy you a whole lot of stuff. Okay, you understand? And so it occupies your mind. It draws worldly things and money draws your heart, you see what I'm saying, toward material things of this world. It seeps in the heart and it corrupts you. Why do you think Lazarus went to heaven?
Because he didn't have that much to worry about.
He didn't have that much to worry about. You see that? See, that's my kid. That's my kids, y'all. See that? He didn't have that much to worry about. You see that? Very, very powerful that you were able to understand that. He didn't have a whole lot to worry about. The enemy wants your mind to be occupied with what?
Worldly
The money and all kind of worldly things. That's what he wants you to be occupied with, right? Okay, Lazarus had a simple life. Simple. Though he didn't have a lot to eat, he didn't have a lot of things, it was simple. Therefore, with that simple life, it had him in a position to be able to be in right standing with God, to the point where he was able to still be close with God, to talk to God, and still have his heart, mind, and soul toward the Lord. Had a simple life. See, simple. The enemy wants you to have a life that's just occupied with all kind of stuff. It's just like the parable of the son. The parable of what's his name? The son that very familiar passage of scripture, but it was the parable of the prodigal son. He asked his dad for his inheritance or his money that he was going to get. His daddy gave it to him. Okay, gave him the money. So the son went out, and the Bible said he spent all that he had on riotous living. And in other words, he just spent his money on, he was just doing all kind of stuff, right? And as he spent his money on all kind of stuff, and he was doing all kind of things, guess what happened to him?
His money got
exactly.
He got kicked out of his house.
He was out there, and all his money was gone, and he was eating the food that pigs eat, swine eat, because he was out there in the world. And the Bible said that he was dead. His son was dead. And that death was symbolic of he was spiritually dead. Why did that happen to him? Well, because when he received that inheritance, he received that money, it was all types of distractions that his heart went to, because he obtained so many things. He was doing this over here, doing that over there, doing this over here, doing that over there, doing that. What did Jesus say? Seek ye first the kingdom, right? Mm-hmm. He kept it simple. He just wants you to seek one thing, right? He said, seek ye first the what?
Kingdom.
The kingdom. Simple life. Keep your mind on him, right? He makes it simple. So let's go back to this now. Daniel chapter 3, Nebuchadnezzar. He sets up an image of gold that he wants everybody to worship. Now, why do you think he wanted everybody to worship this image?
Because it was an image of himself.
Okay, it was an image of himself.
And it was made of gold.
It was made of gold, and he knew everybody would worship that, right? Everybody would worship what?
Money. And
more, exactly. And you think it is. Guess what? You think the devil used new tricks?
No. Mm-hmm. No.
You think you think the devil used new tricks?
No.
The devil don't use new tricks. He used the same thing. He's doing the same thing today. Same thing today. What is that? Alluring people away by material gain. Material gain occupies the mind, occupies the heart, therefore occupies the soul. And once it occupies the soul, the mind and heart, he got you.
But the word is living, it's not material gain.
Exactly.
So if that's occupied on your mind, then you will not get lured from material gain.
Exactly.
That's why I said he was dead.
Exactly. And the thing is, think about this. The enemy, Nebuchadnezzar said that if they worship for anyone that doesn't worship the image will be thrown into the fiery furnace. Okay. Now, the interesting about that, he tricked them, because the reality is the devil knows that if you worship his image, which is the world,
Then if you die in a
you gonna go to the furnace. You understand? But he twisted, he lies. And he makes you think that if you worship this, you won't surely die. What does that sound like? What does that sound like?
Satan.
Satan in the garden, right? Satan in the garden. See that? You should not surely die, for in the day that you eat of it, you should be like gods. See, he twisted, he confused you, he tried to deceive you. Because he uses the same trick. So again, he got this image of gold. He knew everybody would worship. But watch this. Watch this. He needed a method to get all. Now notice what it said. He needed a method to get all the people, all the languages, all the nations to worship this image. He needed a method. And what was his method?
Music.
Music.
Music is like
See? He used, what was it?
Music.
Music. Because music, watch this, is the only way. See, you got so many different, in the world, you got so many different people that disagree on different things. But the one thing that people generally agree on, no matter where you are in the world, is music.
Because there's Christian music and like bad music.
rap.
Exactly. Right, exactly. So he knew music. He knew if he could get everybody to come together on one accord if he got together music. And look how descriptive it is when it talks about, in verse 5, it says that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, it got all kind of instruments I can't even pronounce. He said when they hear that music, that is when they were to fall and worship the image. Same trick he's using today, music. Music speaks to the youth. Music speaks to everybody. And majority of music today, because as you know, your daddy was in the music industry. Do you know what songs they like to play on the radio station?
Yes.
Rap.
Rap music.
Well, okay, that's a certain type, but they want you to be talking about money, material things. If you're talking about something positive, you're talking about Jesus, you think they're gonna play your music on the radio?
No.
But if you're talking about making a whole lot of money and getting big houses and fancy cars and having a good time, they're gonna play that. You understand? What is it? It's the image of gold. That music is glorifying what? The image of gold, or worldliness. Same devil, same trick. And he's so descriptive with these different types of instruments. And it's interesting to me because nowadays in the music industry, when you make music, you got all these machines that make all of these sounds, and you have all these instruments, and it's just so many. So so it's just so descriptive with this. But anyway, so let's keep going. So then the princes, the governors, and the captains, this is verse 3, and the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together to the dedication of that image Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up, and they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then an herald cried aloud, to you it is commanded, O ye people, nations and languages, that at what time you hear the sound of, and then he names all the different instruments, that ye fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king has set up. And whosoever falleth not down and worship shall in the same hour be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. Now we understand that you understand that they played the music, right? And then what happened? What happened with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego?
They were not praising the gold statue.
Okay, now I want y'all to hear me very carefully. Now notice what he said. He said all the princes, all the governors, all the captains, all the judges, the treasurers, the council, the sheriffs, all the rulers of the provinces, all the nations, all the people. Don't that sound like a whole lot of people? That was a whole lot of people, right? Mm-hmm. That was a whole lot of people, right? It was a lot of people. Out of all of those people, how many people didn't bow? 3. Now I want you to think about that. Out of all of them people, how many didn't bow?
3.
Why so few?
Because they are deceived by music and gold.
Everybody's deceived by what? Music and gold. The world has deceived the people.
Because the gate, like I said, to hell is wide and the gate to heaven is very narrow.
Right, and few
so
that be
few are chosen.
that find it. Very few. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Out of all those people, it's 3 that did not bow. Why didn't they bow?
Because they already worshipped God.
Right, and they gave their life. They had already given their life, so they didn't care. They knew they were being thrown in the fiery furnace, but why didn't they care about that?
Because they knew if they died, they would go to heaven.
Exactly, because their life on this earth was for one purpose and one purpose alone. That was to glorify God. That was it. That was their life purpose. Those 3 boys. Now, understand this. At this time, Israel, the children of Israel were, again, they were exiled and they were under Babylonian rule. Now that's interesting to me because out of all the people that was called of God, the children of Israel were there. There was only those Hebrew boys that didn't bow. So even those that had been called by God, out of all them people, it was just 3. That's interesting. And then we see what happened. They were able to resist worshiping the golden image, which wasn't easy, but it was a sacrifice. They were able to let go of the golden image, which is symbolic of the world, right? They resisted the world. They resisted the world. They got penalized for it. Watch this, because they got thrown in the fiery furnace. But God protected them in the midst of the furnace. And what did God do? What did God say he would do if you seek him with your whole heart? And if you love him and follow his commandments, what did he say he'll do? He would, it start with an M. He would manifest himself to you. Didn't he say that? He said that in John. Y'all remember that? He said that. He said, if you love me, keep my commandments. He said, I, my Father, you love. In fact, let me just go there right quick. Y'all just bear with me. Y'all just bear with me. Okay, so boom. All right, so Okay, here you go. This is John chapter 14, verse 21. He that hath my commandments and keep them. Stop rocking the table, son. He that hath my commandments and keep them, he it is that loveth me, and he that loveth me shall be loved of my Father, and I will love him and will manifest myself to him. So what was happening to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? What was he doing?
Manifest.
He was what? He was what?
He was manifest.
He was manifesting himself to them three, because what did they do? They passed the test. They passed the test. The test of the what? The world. They was willing to say no to the world and yes to God. But not just with their mouths, though. Hear me very carefully. They did it with every part in them, because how do I know? They were willing to go in this fiery furnace. So you got to understand that took a level of commitment and dedication. You understand? It wasn't just, oh yeah, we love it. No. They were willing to make that declaration unto God, and God saw it. And that's why he revealed himself to them in that degree. Because you know what those other people of Israel were doing? You know what those other people were saying? Man, I'm going to go and bow, man. I don't want to get thrown in that fiery furnace. I'm going in there. I'm going to bow. What does that show you about those people?
They weren't willing to give up the world.
Exactly. They weren't willing to give up. You see what I'm saying? They still, what they still love, why? Because they love their life. They love their life. They love their life. So you got to die to self. That's why Jesus said, if he said he that saves his life shall lose his life, but he that loses his life for my sake shall save his life. See that? So, thrown in the fiery furnace. They get thrown in the fiery furnace, and then we see, boom, what happens? We see that God manifests himself to all of them in a great way. And the key thing, like I say, is so much in this story. But I'm just going to fast forward to this. Fast forward to the end, because there's so much that we can say. But let's go to verse 30, which is the last verse, because it shows you kingdom principle. Kingdom principle. So many things about this. It reveals to you how God operates, how the enemy operates as well. But watch what happens. Verse 30. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. God promoted them. He's a rewarder to them that diligently seek him. He promoted them. You see, he blessed them. Why? They passed the test. So what do we all understand? It was all a test. But that test was an intense test. God saw that they passed it, and God promoted them to another level. Just like Joseph. Joseph had many tests. He was accused of many things he didn't do. All kind of stuff he went through. It was tests. After he got tested, he got promoted. God blessed him. Kingdom. That's how God operates in his kingdom. But very powerful story, son. You know, as you gave that word, you know, God revealed a lot to me. That was powerful, man. But anyway, all right. So next up is gonna be my daughter. Peace.